Welcome back to Decode with Mohead. Look, we need to talk about a brutal, totally unvarnished reality hitting the engineering landscape in 2026. If you're writing code right now, you already feel it, right? That ambient anxiety, the doom scrolling on Hacker News, the very real panic that an LLM is basically coming for your job. Well, the landscape has changed. It's way harsher than you probably think, but it's also incredibly profitable for those who actually adapt. So today, in this explainer, we're decoding the 5 system design skills that AI hasn't touched, won't touch anytime soon, and that represent the exact dividing line between the engineers who got fired this year and the ones pulling in massive 6-figure raises. Let's get right into it. Let's start with the brutal math. In just the first quarter of 2026, the tech industry laid off about 80,000 engineers. That is not a typo. That's enough people to fill a massive football stadium. And roughly half of those? Yeah, 40,000 jobs attributed directly to AI. Now, companies didn't fire these folks because they were terrible engineers. They fired them because some executive looked at a shiny chart proving agentic AI tools could churn out boilerplate code, wire up classes, and build basic CRUD endpoints for the cost of a monthly API subscription. You really can't argue with that kind of math. So they just sent out the emails.
But here is the contrarian pivot, the hidden truth literally no one is talking about. While 80,000 engineers got shown the door, open software engineering roles actually surged to a 3-year high. Think about that. Companies were firing and hiring at the exact same time. Why? Because they're hunting for a completely different breed of engineer. Engineers who possess AI-specialized system design skills are now commanding an average of $206,000 a year. Check out this distinction. AI isn't replacing engineers entirely. It's replacing the code monkeys. The mechanical, repetitive typing that's super easy to spec out in a prompt, that is gone. AI handles the boilerplate, the basic unit tests, translating from Python to Go. But what humans absolutely must do now is the messy, high-context stuff, applying deep technical judgment, understanding stakeholder context, and navigating the bizarre organizational history of a company. The middle ground is shrinking fast, but the top is absolutely booming. So this is your new core arsenal. These are the 5 irreplaceable skills that separate the survivors from the casualties. Trade-off reasoning, cross-system empathy, distributed systems intuition, failure mode imagination, and architectural storytelling. If you want to move up the value chain faster than an LLM can train, this is your playbook. We're going to break down each one, define them, and see exactly why an AI can't do this for you.
Let's start with skill number 1, trade-off reasoning. Trade-off reasoning is basically your ability to look at multiple valid solutions, weigh them against actual, messy, real-world constraints, and just pick the least bad option. Real engineering rarely has a mathematically perfect answer. Let me show you what I mean. If you ask an AI for an architecture to handle heavy transactions, it spits out absolute technical perfection. Recently, an AI proposed this beautiful event sourcing system with CQRS, Kafka, and a polyglot persistence layer to a fintech team. It was elegant. I mean, it's exactly the kind of thing you draw on a whiteboard interview to look really smart. But operationally, for that specific team, it was a total disaster waiting to happen. A senior engineer on that team took one look at that AI-generated Kafka architecture and just laughed. He basically said, look, if we ship that, we're all going to be on call every single weekend for the next 18 months. Our backup engineer, Jeff, who knows absolutely zero Kafka, will rage quit by month 4, and our cloud bill is going to triple. Let's just put indexes on the existing Postgres tables and go home. Think about that for a second. The AI doesn't know about Jeff. The AI doesn't know that the VP of engineering has a weird vendetta against MongoDB. The AI was technically correct, sure, but the senior human engineer was operationally correct, and that specific human judgment is worth $200,000 a year. Moving right along to skill number 2, cross-system empathy. This is essentially stakeholder translation. Look, systems don't exist in a vacuum. You've got product managers, support agents, legal, end users. For example, a platform team once built this internal API for product search. By every single technical metric, it was a masterpiece. We're talking sub-millisecond latency, beautiful auto-generated SDKs, the works. But the marketing team, the actual human beings who needed to use it for their campaigns, found it completely useless. Why? Because the parameters were deep, obscure technical jargon like availability_state_enum. The marketing engineer just sighed, gave up completely, and wrote a nasty script to scrape the public website instead. AI cannot read the room to know that your API's naming convention is going to cause a downstream team to revolt. A human with cross-system empathy has to make that call. Skill number 3, distributed systems intuition.
This right here is your engineer's spider sense. It's that gut feeling, that instinct in your bones, where you just know exactly where an architecture is going to snap under load. You've probably worked with one of these people, a database whisperer. There was this fast-growing startup, and their database was dying a slow, agonizing death over a few weeks. They fed all the query plans into an AI, and the AI confidently told them, add more indexes, obviously. But the database whisperer on the team took one glance at the metrics, sighed heavily, and said, all right, who disabled the auto vacuum settings? Sure enough, someone had done it months ago. One-line fix, boom. AI blindly reads query data, but the human reads the matrix of organizational history and pattern recognition. That intuition, which is usually forged at 3 a.m. during a terrifying outage, is completely irreplaceable.
Skill number 4, failure mode imagination. Think of this as adversarial thinking. It is structured pessimism. AI writes code that works perfectly for the happy path. But as a human engineer, your actual job is to actively imagine how hostile actors, completely bizarre edge cases, or just pure bad luck will destroy your system. Classic example here. A SaaS company had a single customer's data just vanish. Poof, gone. The AI debugging tools confidently blame the database. Naturally, but a deeply paranoid senior engineer spent hours hunting through the logs and found the absolute truth. The customer had recently changed their company name to include an M dash. Yeah, a single M dash. The ETL pipeline choked on that specific Unicode character and silently dropped the record every single night. AI didn't catch that. A human with failure mode imagination did. Because let's face it, Unicode is always out there, lurking, just waiting to ruin your weekend.
Finally, skill number 5. Architectural storytelling.
Listen, you can design the most brilliant, robust, scalable system in the world, but it is entirely worthless if you cannot persuade the executives to actually fund it. Consider the staff engineer who needed to pitch a massive, painful legacy migration. He didn't just write one AI-generated design doc and call it a day. No, he wrote 4 completely different versions of the exact same proposal. He wrote 30 pages of deep technical trade-offs for the engineering VP, 12 pages focusing strictly on user impact for the product VP, 4 pages heavily focused on financial risk for the CFO, and a single page with exactly 3 bullet points for the CEO. The proposal, approved unanimously. AI can generate text all day long, but it cannot exercise the highly subtle political judgment required to read a room full of execs and give them exactly what they need to say yes. Let's look at what this actually means in a week in the life of a layoff survivor.
Here is what the calendar of a battle-hardened senior engineer actually looks like in 2026. On Monday, they're using their distributed systems intuition to debug some 500 errors that the AI basically hallucinated into existence. Tuesday, they're using trade-off reasoning to talk a really eager junior engineer out of building a massively over-complex microservice architecture. Wednesday is all about architectural storytelling to pitch the execs. Thursday, they lean on failure mode imagination during a code review to catch a partial API response bug right before it ships. And by Friday, they're using cross-system empathy to just build a simple, clean debug page that cuts the support team's tickets in half. Notice the pattern here? The human handles the judgment and the context. The AI just sits in the background generating the boilerplate.
So, what's the blueprint? Here is your 90-day action plan.
We've covered the what and the why. Now let's talk about the how. This is a slightly cynical but highly practical 90-day plan to convert all that ambient anxiety into sheer survival. Weeks 1 and 2, I want you to rate yourself brutally on these 5 skills. Be honest. Weeks 3 and 4, expose yourself to some reality. Go read the gnarly outage postmortems from Cloudflare and GitHub to build up that intuition. Weeks 5 through 8, strictly practice your weakest link. Lacking adversarial thinking? Sit down tomorrow morning with a coffee and write out 20 distinct failure modes for your current system. Demand harsh feedback from the senior engineers around you, apply it to a real deployment, and then repeat the cycle. Do this for a year, and I guarantee you become absolutely indispensable. Look, the market in 2026 is absolutely brutal for code monkeys, but it is wide open for engineers who are willing to do the messy, highly contextual human work that AI just can't touch. So I'm going to leave you with a provocative question. Out of these 5 skills, which one are you the weakest at right now? Is it trade-off reasoning, empathy, intuition, imagination, or storytelling? Drop your answer in the comments below, and whichever skill gets mentioned the most, that's what we'll tackle in our next deep dive. Keep learning, keep adapting, and whatever you do, do not let the AI dictate your value. This has been an explainer of the engineering landscape, completely decoded. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll catch you in the next